Some of the most powerful and sometimes most complicated ancestral connections are the ones we actually knew in life. I call them living memory ancestors. These are the parents, grandparents, or even great-grandparents who have crossed over, but whose voices, laughter, or touch we can still remember. In this video, we are going to talk about what makes living memory ancestors unique, the gifts and challenges of working with them, how to know if it's the right time or the right ancestor to work with, and practical ways to connect with them that's safe, respectful, and healing. Because this work can bring incredible closeness or reopen old wounds, the key is knowing which path you are on with this work. So first, let's define a living memory ancestor. They are different energetically from our more ancient ancestors. You may never have met your fifth great-grandmother, but your grandmother, you might remember the way she braided your hair, or the songs that she hummed when she was in the kitchen, or even how she smelled. These ancestors live in a shared memory space. We carry both the physical and emotional imprints of their presence with us. And because they are only 1, 2, or 3 generations back, they're deeply connected to the family stories, the traumas, and the blessings that shape our everyday life. My grandparents and great-grandparents, for example, experience of the Great Depression has had a profound impact on how my life is shaped even today. Working with living memory ancestors can be incredibly powerful. So first, the emotional bond is often stronger. The love, the trust, the connection that you built while they were alive becomes a bridge you can walk across now. Second, you can recognize them more easily. The way their voice sounds in a dream, a familiar phrase or song that drops into your mind, even a scent that you strongly associate with them, like their perfume or the smell of cooking. My grandmother comes through in the scent of her perfume that I remember her wearing when I was growing up. Occasionally the smell of cinnamon rolls, that was something that she was well known for. And my grandfather comes through with the smell of a mix of tobacco and aftershave, what he always smelled like. So third, they share your cultural and generational context. They understand the world you live in more closely than ancestors further back, and they may be able to share images or signs that have a more personal context for you. Fourth, they often hold keys to lineage memory. So they're the bridge between you and the ancestors that you've never met, the ones that are further enough back that their stories may have been lost. These living memory ancestors are the bridge that carry the stories, the family recipes, and the ways of living from those far back ancestors to your current life and family and culture today. And finally, there's a chance for healing and closure. So you can have conversations with these living memory ancestors that are now in spirit that maybe weren't possible in life. It just opens up a whole new door. There are also challenges with working with these living memory ancestors, and it is important to name them. So the first challenge is the emotional overlap. Your grief, your longing, or your unresolved feelings can make it hard to tell if you're truly hearing them or if you're just hearing your own heartache. The second is unfinished business. If there was conflict or hurt, connecting too soon can actually reopen that pain rather than healing it and allowing it to cover over. Also, needing to connect with them in order to resolve something that's still kind of festering makes the contact less pure. Third, they may still be adjusting to the spirit world. So just like us, the ancestors have a process of release and integration, and they may not yet have the clarity or stability to guide you. I remember a session that I had with a medium probably about 6 months after my aunt passed, and it was actually a double reading session with my mom as well. And she was very anxious to contact her sister and just to hear, that she was okay on the other side. And the medium actually brought my grandmother through, and it was my grandmother that relayed the message that my aunt was in some sort of a school. Going to school was the language that she used. And it was actually, as it progressed, it was that she was healing. She had a pretty traumatic emotional life in the physical form. And so she was going to this school on the other side to learn how to heal and to recover the soul energy and the soul strength from being in the human form. And that takes some time. There's no timeline as to when a soul might be, out of this process and able to contact. Some come through right away. Some take a little bit longer. It just depends on, what their path is and what their healing journey is on the other side. So then the fourth challenge of working with these living memory ancestors is bias and perspective. So it's easy for us to allow not so pleasant memories to cloud our judgment when working with living memory ancestors. They have crossed into the spirit world where the veil has lifted, and they remember everything as love once they crossed over. But we are still operating under our human soul contract, and we may still hold some of the prejudices, fears, or even limitations that we encountered with them in life. So I do have a personal story of operating under, some of the fears and limitations of a living memory ancestor. So I was contacted by a distant relative on my dad's side of the family. This is like a daughter of a cousin of a grandparent or great grandparent of mine, like distant connection, saying that she had photos of my grandmother as an infant and then one as a high school graduate. And she wanted to get these to a direct descendant, somebody who was in the direct line in the family, and ask if I would like them. She didn't have any idea that I do this kind of work, didn't know anything about ancestral healing, just reached out and found me as a direct descendant. And I said, yes, I would love to have those. That would be nice to have. Now, the relationship that I had with my grandmother when she was living was very cold. It was very, she was just a cold, kind of stingy woman. She had already had several grandkids by the time I came along, and so I don't know if she didn't feel a need to foster a relationship with me, or if that's just, the way that she was, and she just wasn't a warm, friendly, cuddly, like, let's make cookies kind of a grandma. So that does kind of cloud my perception of working with her on the other side. I have received several signs here lately that she is reaching out and that she does want to work with me. Making a conscious decision to work with the energy of the healed and well version of her is a choice that I could make, and I could reach out and work with that version of her versus like the crabby old lady version. And that's what it would take for me to have to work with her. It would take me basically reaching out to like this version, to the version before I knew her, to the, sweet, innocent child, to the young woman who had hopes and dreams, and not allowing that clouding, that judgment of the way that I interacted with her as a child to cloud maybe the ancestral connection or, who she is on the other side. So then the fifth thing to know about working with living memory ancestors is boundary setting. So boundaries can be very, very important here. So in the example that I just gave, my boundary is working with the healed and well version only, the version that is in light and love, and not working with the version that is a little lower energy. So I would ask my guides and angels to help with that and establish that I only want to work with the healed and well version. And that's something that you can do as well. Set the boundaries. You only want to work with healed and well. You only want to work with, this version. So how do you know if this will work? If it's the signs that it's going to be a good relationship versus maybe a not so good relationship. Signs it is good. Their presence feels calm, loving, and grounded. Like you just feel very calm, very loving, very grounded. It feels pleasant. It feels good in the interaction. The messages come through very supportive, very clear, and they are not fear-based. Any messages that come through that make you feel fear-based or like just not good, that's not a good relationship to work with. And then you feel stronger, clearer, and more at peace after connecting. So maybe you feel like there's more guidance, or you feel more peaceful, or you just feel very connected to them. Those are all signs that this is a good relationship, a good, working relationship with a living memory ancestor. So signs that are not so good: if the energy feels heavy, chaotic, or even unclear, if things feel confusing or just, heavy, that's not a good sign. If you leave the encounter feeling drained or sad or unsettled, if you are agitated for hours or days after trying to work with a living memory ancestor, that's not a good sign. That's not a good relationship. And it may not be that it's not ever going to work. It's just not a good time now. And that's a sign of that. And also if you have more grief, shame, or anger after contact, again, if you leave the contact feeling just off, not good, not loving, not peaceful, grounded, or centered, that's a sign that it's probably not a good time to be able to pursue this relationship with a living memory ancestor. So if you feel ready, and if they feel ready, then here is how you begin. You can open with a ceremony, whatever ceremony means to you, whether it's sitting in the garden, whether it is lighting a candle, whether it is pouring a cup of tea. If you and your great grandmother had tea and that was your special time, it would be a beautiful ceremony to pour a cup of tea and invite her in. So then you speak their name, and you may wish to offer something that they loved in life. If there's a particular food that you know that they loved, if I want to connect with my maternal grandmother, then I may offer cinnamon rolls, or I may offer something that I know that she really enjoyed. You can also offer a song. You can offer flowers. You can offer, something from the heart that you feel would really make a connection with them. And then the second step is to name the relationship. So an example of this is to say, I honor you as my grandmother, and I welcome you as my ancestor now. Okay? If that feels aligned. If it doesn't quite feel aligned to say that, make it your own version. So in the example that I used with my paternal grandmother, where I have memories of her being kind of a cold old lady, I'm not certain that I can take that step right now to say, I honor you as my grandmother and I welcome you as my ancestor now. So here's an example of one that might work for me to speak the relationship. And feel free to tailor this to what you would like to do. So I might say, I honor you as the mother of my father, and I would like to heal inherited patterns that you may have passed down. That feels more genuine and authentic for me, given the relationship that we had. So feel into that and see how you might want to name the relationship for you. So third step, be specific. If you have questions, if you're looking for guidance, then ask clear questions. Sometimes yes or no questions are the best, and you can kind of tune in. Did I get a yes? Did that feel good? Did I get a no? How did that sense in my body? Or request guidance on something focused. So if you're looking for guidance and you just ask, like, what should I do with my life? You're probably going to get a very unclear answer, if you get an answer at all. So it should be something very focused, start out simple. Don't try to ask for a flood of life advice to begin with. And then set boundaries. This is huge. Set boundaries. So if they had harmful or just kind of icky patterns in life, call forward only their healed and well self for this work. And also invite any guides, any angels, any older and healed and well ancestors in your lineage. Every lineage has older, healed and well ancestors that can guide this kind of connection. Just call on them, ask them to hold space, and guide the connection for you. Okay. So, and then the fifth step is work in partnership with them. This isn't about demanding answers. It's about building a relationship, a respectful and ongoing relationship, rather than trying to get in, get out, get a reading kind of thing. You're building a relationship here. So understand too that it's okay to wait. If your grief still feels raw or you're overly emotional, if you've just lost your father or your mother, and it just feels really emotional to connect, wait. Just wait. If the relationship was abusive or unsafe, or if the contact again leaves you feeling better, if the contact leaves you feeling worse, not better. If the contact leaves you feeling worse, not better, then step back. Just wait, pause. This doesn't have to be a race. It's a journey. It's a journey to work with living memory ancestors. So if it just doesn't feel right now, it's okay to take a step back, pause, wait, and try again later. Living memory ancestors hold both beauty and complexity. They can be our strongest allies. They are our closest generational ancestors. But they can also be the ones who call us most deeply into the work of repair. They can trigger us more deeply than ancestors that are generations back. So when we approach with love, clarity, and respect, they can help us to heal the lineage in both directions, both forward and backward. And in the meantime, we may get to know a version of them that we didn't get to see in our lifetime. I may get to know a version of my paternal grandmother that I didn't get to see in my lifetime. I may get to see a side of her that is truly different than what I have known so far. So, as always, if you would like to go deeper into this work, I do offer ancestral healing sessions. And I also offer stone medicine healing, and the overlap between ancestral healing and stone medicine healing is pretty incredible. So that is where we explore safe and sacred ways to connect with our ancestors. So remember, healing them is healing you, and healing you is healing them. It goes forwards and backwards, both ways through time. I hope you have enjoyed this.